The battle between Shoto and Dabi has been a long time coming, with the first seeds being planted as early as chapter 72 when Dabi and the League invade the camp, and Dabi gets the biggest focus as a sort of de facto leader of this squad, saying that this is all for the sake of a better future. With us now knowing exactly what future he envisioned as he burned away various heroes and civilians with his quirk, all to rack up the body count to make Endeavor look even worse for his failure. This makes me wonder if Dabi knew beforehand that Shoto was going to be here, or if it's just fate at play. In chapter 82, the trio of Midoriya, Shoji, and Shoto make it to the League members on Mr. Compress's back, and Dabi is quick to reply with a fire blast, but the first reaction that we get on the page is Shoto's close-up, a subtle hint at the 300 chapter long drama that's about to unfold. Of course, Dabi gets away with a sly "how sad for you, Shoto Todoroki," relishing in the fact that he has one of his brother's friends, which should definitely hurt. And from here, we advance the story to season 6 of the anime, where Dabi and Shoto's first real fight begins after Shoto learns the truth of Dabi's identity. I've already done a video covering Dabi's dance, and I also have one discussing Dabi's entire backstory from the stuff we learned this season to the things that we don't know until the next, so please check those out for a fuller picture of the events that transpire in this plotline. Now, during Dabi vs. Shoto, we see Best Jeanist wrap his heavy-duty cords around Dabi to prevent the lost Todoroki sibling from taking Endeavor and Shoto out with one prominence burn. But as Nejire readies an attack on the other League members, Dabi, who's locked in the middle of the air in a flaming standoff with Shoto, shoots a torrent of fire from his back with pinpoint accuracy, burning Nejire. Dabi laughs as he easily burns the cords that were binding him and looks more like a devil than he ever has before, but not as much as he will a little later in the video. Touya mocks Endeavor, saying his flames have hurt another young hero and that history is repeating itself. But in response to this, Shoto once again flies into Dabi, grabbing onto him as the two of them burn like a star in the sky. But as Shoto tries to get any sort of emotion out of his brother, Toya doesn't or can't budge. Almost killed Natsuo? Who cares if he was my brother and I used to cry to him? Anything that would hurt Endeavor is a-okay with me, no matter what the cost. Shoto thinks that Toya is crazy, and with a big smile on his face, Toya turns up the heat and starts actually roasting Shoto slightly as he says, "Sure am." We get a bit more as Dabi wonders what sort of face Endeavor will make when Shoto is burned to ash in front of him, and Deku finally steps in to remind Dabi that his quirk is his own, not Endeavor's, very much echoing the speech that Deku gave Todoroki in the sports festival, but with an entirely different meaning. Endeavor completely passes out after using the last of his energy on Gigantomachia, but because Endeavor won't be around to see it and the League is starting their retreat, Dabi just hits Shoto with a powerful flash fire fist that takes him out of the battle in one shot. In the aftermath of their battle, both sides take time to heal their wounds and prepare as much as possible. In this time, the two brothers would come to make their decisions. Dabi decides that this will be the day that he dies, taking out Shoto and bringing him to Endeavor before ending the #1 hero as well. Shoto realizes that Dabi's on a purely destructive path, and after a meeting with the family and seeing the reality of how people need to be split up for the final war, Shoto decides that he's going to save his brother no matter what it takes, and puts that responsibility on his shoulders as he begins training a powerful new technique in order to achieve this goal. Now, everything from here happens in My Hero Academia's final arc, but it's important to cover to discuss how this is truly the end for Toya. During the final war arc, we see all the villains and all the heroes meeting on the same battlefield with what seems like it'll be a massive battle. Dabi instantly spots Endeavor and lunges ahead, even ignoring Shigaraki's orders, and he lets loose a giant fire blast as he threatens to cook Endeavor's allies. But to meet that fire blast comes a massive wave of ice from one of Monoma's portals, thanks to him copying Kurogiri's quirk. When Dabi sees Shoto, he screams with excitement because now both the people that he wants to burn away are here in front of him, but it's rather short-lived. You see, UA's system Troy activates, which is a barrier system that locks all of the villains up in the cages and then quickly ships them off through portals to various different specified areas. This sets the final battleground for many legendary battles that take place all over My Hero Academia's Japan, but the iconic location that Dabi and Shoto's final battle takes place in is Kamino Ward, where All Might threw his final punch and All for One, for a time at least, was defeated. Dabi looks displeased with the fact that he's been separated from Endeavor, but takes a small victory in the fact that he's still in Shoto's area. However, as the destruction begins to spread like his fire via the high-end Nomu that are along for the ride with him, Dabi hangs off the side of the All Might statue, taking in the nostalgic view of what reminds him of the Hosu City incident in the Stain arc, where Nomu were attacking and fires raged on. Dabi floats up towards the air, almost looking like he wants to leave, saying, "As usual, you won't look at me, huh?" huh? I can't get fired up like this. Is your third son and some of these lackey sidekicks supposed to stop me? Shoto tells Dabi that he chose to be the one to put a stop to Dabi, and he's nobody's puppet. As Burnin and the others ready to back him, and as Dabi's heat just gets stronger and stronger. This is when parts of his face start to melt away and crumble away to ash, as the muscles and bones in his face are exposed to Shoto in a horrifying sight. This is where Dabi tells his backstory, which we've covered on this channel in our The Day Touya Todoroki Became Dabi video, which you can click on the card in the top right to watch for a more detailed explanation. But for a quick summary, Toya was born with skin more like an ice user, leading Endeavor to stop training him for his own good, but the expectations that Endeavor had for Toya never stopped driving him to want to train and improve himself despite those injuries. So like a bad father, Endeavor decided that instead of just focusing on one of his sons and trying to help him out as much as he could, his end goal of surpassing All Might was more important, so logically he had to have a perfect son to kill two birds with one stone by surpassing All Might and breaking Toya's spirit enough to make him quit using his quirk. This leads to Toya burning up alone on Sakoto Peak and eventually being stabilized by the villains, and more time goes on and eventually he's the man we see before us today, ready to die for his goals. After explaining everything that's happened to Shoto in far more detail than I did, Dabi tells Shoto a little secret. He says that he's seen many of Endeavor's moves, and that's because he's devoted himself to making his flames as strong as possible for his ultimate battle with Endeavor. So Dabi ironically learned all of Endeavor's moves that he couldn't be taught by him just by watching the hero on the TV and on the internet. Dabi's heat easily melts the All Might statue in Kamino, and he launches a massive hell spider that sends the battlefield into chaos as they all try to dodge Dabi's hellish version of Endeavor's technique. But in the chaos, as Shoto tries to counter with something new of his own, Dabi absolutely blitzes him and starts demolishing Shoto both physically and mentally. He tells Shoto that he had everything given to him and he had everything one needed to be great, but still chose to cling to others instead of shining on his own. For that, he'll never be a hero, and those are words that Dabi's been wanting to say for Shoto for so long, I'm sure, specifically because that's what he was denied the most from Endeavor in favor of the perfect sibling. The issue though is that Shoto isn't actually worthless, he does have something up his sleeve. Through finally accepting himself in his origin, much like we saw with Shigaraki and we've seen with other characters who liberate themselves from their past, Shoto is able to use both sides together to create something brand new, his very own Quirk Awakening. Shoto brings out his new Phosphor move to take Dabi down, freezing multiple city blocks in an impressive clash using this new power that looks like a strange mix between fire and ice that stops combustion at its source and heat on anything that it coats. With a tragic clash between brothers finally at an end as it looks like Christmas in Japan, the battlefield calms down as the news of Dabi's capture rings through various locations that the heroes have trapped the villains in. But something is off. As one of Endeavor's sidekicks goes to check on Dabi's vitals, wondering how he's still alive under all that icy fire produced by Shoto's quirk, we see a small light in Dabi's chest starting to glow brighter and brighter until it flares like a miniature sun, igniting into an egg-shaped armor of fire wrapping around Dabi. As Dabi grabs onto Endeavor's sidekick and sets him entirely ablaze at an instant with a heat wave that pushes back even the other fire users in the vicinity. Now Shoto has trained extensively to unlock this new Quirk Awakening, a new understanding of his quirk that allows him to push beyond towards his goals. However, Dabi is a natural genius, and as we've discussed, he's been able to copy Endeavor's entire arsenal practically, but him basically breaking Shoto's Quirk Awakening by awakening his own quirk to this new understanding and ability in a direct counter to Shoto is still extremely impressive. Shoto at this point has lost. Dabi is powered up way too much and his heat has gone beyond the point where Shoto can reach him with his quirk or even his words, and as Shoto sits there with no actual way of reaching Toya, he watches as Dabi flies up and away into a Korigiri portal to Endeavor's area, leaving precious Shoto alive because Dabi knows that the time is near. He only has so long left with the state that his body is in, so he needs to go finish things with Endeavor instead of trying to bring him Shoto's ashes as a gift. Honestly, I think that Dabi just wants to die with Endeavor looking at him though. Eventually, Dabi arrives in the Endeavor and Hawks area, and by now Dabi is extremely injured with his body literally burning away as he still attempts to keep the fight going somehow through sheer willpower. Himiko Toga uses Sadman's Parade to spawn an army of Twice clones, and Dabi indiscriminately burns through them as he cuts a large path of fire through the area like he's been known to do. Now that Dabi has reached Endeavor when Endeavor is down an arm and has already overheated himself using all of his firepower on All for One, things are gonna get really interesting because Dabi is on his last rope, but so is Endeavor, and Dabi's injuries are again to the point where I don't believe that there's any chance that he could be saved bar a Phoenix Quirk related miracle on his end. So right here, right now, before Horikoshi sneaks it up on us like twice, we need to accept probably that this is the day that Touya Todoroki, otherwise known as Dabi, dies. Each one of the Todoroki family members are examples of different paths that victims in their situation could have taken. Fuyumi is fairly forgiving and tries to help Endeavor improve his relationship with his family, while Natsuo was the one who wasn't ready to forgive. Shoto himself is one who wants to forgive but needs a reason to allow himself to do that, and Toya is the one who will, no matter what, never forgive Enji or Rei for what they've done for the family. In the same sense, our League of Villains characters are different examples of what can happen when you try to save someone. I believe Himiko Toga would be an example of a villain that can be saved and survive. Shigaraki or Tenko will be an example of a villain that can be saved but for whom death is a form of salvation. All For One will be a villain that cannot be saved because of who he always was, and Dabi will be the villain that cannot be saved because of who he became, ultimately being one of the more tragic types of losses, especially in a hero series like My Hero Academia, where when you save a villain, you might actually be saving the world.